Hello Star Wars fans, and welcome to episode 50 of Journey into Legends. Today we are going to be reading Shadows of the Empire. Shadows of the Empire was a multimedia project in 1996, set between episodes 5 and 6, consisting of a novel, a junior novel, 2 comic runs, a video game, a soundtrack, and various merchandising like action figures and trading cards. Today we're going to be reading the adult novel by Steve Perry, the comic run by John Wagner, the sequel comic run titled Evolution by Steve Perry, and a few various one-shots such as the Battle of the Bounty Hunters pop-up comic by Ryder Wyndham, Stalker also by Ryder Wyndham, and the Jabba tape by John Wagner. Anyways, without further ado, let's read and review. Alright, so I just finished Shadows of the Empire by Steve Perry, and this book was honestly a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this book's plot. It felt very grand, almost like it could have been another film in the original trilogy. It was great seeing Vader, Palpatine, and other original trilogy characters and seeing what they were up to between the films. I also really liked all of our new characters, especially Dash Rendar and Prince Shizor, both of which felt naturally integrated into this era, especially Shizor, who was a key player in both Vader's search for Luke and in the rebellion's seizure of the second Death Star plans. This book also served as great connective tissue between films, whether it was explaining key plot points like how the rebels got the plans for the second Death Star, or even smaller things like where Leia got the thermal detonator she later uses to threaten Jabba with. Despite the writing being a little juvenile at times and there being a few questionable moments like the notorious Prince Shizor seduction scene, overall, this book was one of the more fun books in the EU thus far. Alright, so I just read all 6 issues of the Shadows of the Empire comics by John Wagner, and overall I really enjoyed seeing some of the novel brought to life and visualized in comic form, as well as some new scenes following Boba Fett's journey between episodes 5 and 6. In terms of adapting the book, though, I actually think these comics did a fairly poor job of telling a cohesive story. A lot of critical details were omitted, and a lot of the context was lost. In short, I'm really glad I decided to read the book first, or else I would have been so lost while reading these comics. As a companion piece to the book, I think these comics are pretty fun, but at the end of the day, I much prefer the novel. Alright, so I've just finished Shadows of the Empire Evolution, which is basically the sequel to the original book and comic run. Personally, I thought it was fun for what it was, but making Guri the main character was kind of a strange choice. Yes, her fate was left open at the end of Shadows of the Empire, but personally, I would have preferred if it was just a side plot in this one. I feel like Evolution would have been much more interesting if it instead focused on Dash Rendar, whose fate was also left up in the air. I feel like Dash would have easily been the more interesting protagonist. After all, he was the protagonist in the game. But anyways, for what Evolution was, I thought it was a pretty good follow-up to Shadows of the Empire. Alright, so I just finished the Battle of the Bounty Hunters pop-up comic by Ryder Wyndham, and overall, it was a neat little concept, but I would have liked to see a new story rather than just a retelling of Boba Fett's fight with IG-88. This comic was very short, sweet, and luckily very cheap to find, but personally, I wouldn't really recommend picking it up, as it adds next to nothing to the story. Alright, so I just finished Stalker by Ryder Wyndham, and personally, I wasn't a huge fan of this one. Jix worked fine as a minor character in the Shadows of the Empire comics, but similar to Guri in Evolution, I don't really think he works as well as a main character. As for the plot, I didn't really like the story being told here. There was a plotline about human replicajoids that just felt really unnecessary, and Darth Vader felt a little out of character for me. Overall, it's not bad by any means, but it's definitely a skippable one, and only serves to add to Jix's story, who, again, just isn't a very interesting character to begin with. Alright, so I just read the Jabba tape by John Wagner, and I actually really enjoyed this one. I wasn't a huge fan of Big Giz and Spiker in the Shadows of the Empire comics, but here, I actually really enjoyed their characters. The plot in this one was really simple, as the two swoop bikers race Gorga the Hutt to a large piece of Jabba's fortune, and I had a lot of fun with it. I hope to see more of Big Giz and Spiker eventually, as I'm actually starting to really like their characters. Overall, I really enjoyed Shadows of the Empire as a whole. The book is definitely my favorite piece of media that I read, but the comic adaptation and evolution were pretty fun as well. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for next video because it's going to be a really fun one. Since we've made it to episode 50, I'm going to be going back and re-ranking all of the books and comics I've read thus far on a tier list, which is going to be a lot of fun. After that, I'm going to be taking a little break from reading Star Wars just to avoid getting burnt out, but after that, I'll be returning with episode 51, where I'll be reviewing the cancelled Legends novella Lightsider by Tom Veitch. See ya.